Hello, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Progression in Progress. All right, Sam, how you doing? What's up? How we doing? We're live.
We're doing good.
My intros just keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I don't know how to start these most of the time either.
Yeah, we should probably just cut out all the BS and just go straight into it.
Probably.
Okay, so today, what are we doing?
Today, we're going to, kind of similar to a previous episode we've done, we're going to, we have some clips and we're going to discuss them and how they contribute to the progression in progress mindset.
Exactly. So we have taken these clips and we've chopped them up, and I've done my very best to make sure I'm not taking them out of context or distorting the meaning, trying my very best. So please forgive me if I mess up, but I think we did a pretty good job of clipping them up, chopping them up. But this is from these clips are from the Joe Rogan Experience, great podcast. And this is with Joe's episode with Tim Pool. I think he's done a few episodes with Tim Pool, but this is from episode 1465. Dang, we're only on episode 8. Imagine being on episode 1465.
We'll get there.
I'll be like 50. I'll be 50 years old, just like Joe, dude.
Dude, that's so crazy to think about. But gotta be there in the long term.
Okay, random side note. Super random side note. This is totally off topic. You know, Joe Rogan, he's got young Jamie, right? His little producer dude.
No, but okay.
Oh man. Okay, but so he calls him young Jamie, so I always thought he was young, but the guy's like 45. Oh. So I was kind of disappointed when I found that out. But okay, getting back to what we're talking about here. So this is Joe Rogan, Tim Pool. I sent this clip to Sam a while ago. I think even before we started the podcast. Mm-hmm. And then once we started the podcast, we were talking about similar stuff. And then I listened to the clip again and I was like, dang, this really embodies the whole progression and progress mindset. And I thought it would be a good idea to kind of throw these clips together, chop them up, hopefully preserve their context, preserve their meaning, and then throw them into this podcast. And then hopefully Sam and I can provide some additional commentary and then really relate it directly instead of indirectly into the progression and progress mindset. Yeah,
definitely. So I guess we'll start off with the first clip.
Yes, sir.
Yes. You know, there's a TED Talk. There's one personality trait that guarantees success of all. It's not intelligence. It's not class. It's not race. Not gender. You know what it is?
What?
Perseverance. That's it.
I believe that.
There's a TED Talk on it. It's interesting, and it's true. Now, I think there's always going to be certain limits based on your ability. Like, I'm never going to play in the NBA. I'm not tall enough.
Right.
Nowhere near as fast or can jump high enough. Actually, that's not true. I can jump pretty high skateboard. But you take people who don't have top-tier intelligence, not the strongest, but if they work hard enough, they can find their apex. They can find that point where they are successful and they can make it.
Right.
It's not true for everybody. Some people are below that threshold. No matter how hard they try, they're going to need help.
Well, I think that the problem is with any sort of generalization. You know, perseverance is the most important thing. Yes, sure. But you also have to be intelligent. You can't be doing the same thing over and over again. No, I'm not going to quit. No, you have to be able to figure out what you're doing wrong as well as have perseverance. Perseverance is a necessary part of the equation.
So what do you think right off the bat, first impressions, what do you think of that clip, Sam?
So I guess there's a little bit to unpack there, kind of more near the end, I guess. But I think first off, the whole message of perseverance being the most important thing, I think that is pretty true. So I've always seen that, kind of, I guess for most things, like, a lot of the time, like I used to have this idea that, okay, if I'm not this level of intelligence or I'm not at this level of skill or something, that, okay, then you can't do anything, or it's just like, you can't even try. And maybe it's just me being maybe overestimating my own abilities, but
overestimating or underestimating?
Underestimating. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's a word. But I've kind of like realized that like most things are not, and some things, like, you know, kind of they were talking about in the clip, like, you know, obviously like not everyone can be an NBA player if they don't match up with that criteria physically or whatever it is. But for most things, like, you don't have to, like, you can work your way up to doing most things that you want to do. And I think that kind of mindset shift is like super crazy to kind of have. Like, if I just do something long enough or put enough hours into it, I can eventually get to that level. And I think a lot of people are just kind of, they just quit right from the get-go just because they don't believe they can ever get to that level because of whatever doubts they have about themselves, when really I think most people have the capacity to do most things that they want to do, and they just don't realize it.
No, that's that made me think of kind of my experience with, well, okay, let me give some context to this. So I've been very blessed to have amazing parents. Shout out to my mother, shout out to my father. I've been very blessed to have amazing parents. And, you know, I've also been very blessed that my dad's been able to provide for our family as well. You know, those are two gigantic blessings in my life. But when I think about what my parents have, given me, what kind of support they've given me, one of the most important things, and I would be willing to argue that it's more important than their ability to provide for me, more important for their ability to protect me and stuff like that. I think one of the greatest things my parents have done for me is they've given me the confidence, or not the confidence, but they've given me the support to believe that I can do whatever I set my mind to. You know, when I was talking to my dad about starting this podcast, I'm like, hey dad, I'm doing this. It's up on, I've started the process. It's going to be up and running soon. And he's like, let's go. When are you interviewing Elon Musk? When are you interviewing, Joe Rogan? What's going down? And he was like, I'm like, okay, that's a little ridiculous. I'm not going to, with my small audience, I'm not going to interview, the top of the top at the very beginning, but it's that mindset. That mindset inspired me. Okay. He gave me the confidence that, this is something that I could do. The sky's the limit. Something, instead of thinking, okay, I have a small ceiling above my head. If I jump, I'm going to hit my head. But rather he's, telling me to shoot for the moon. And that kind of confidence, really, that kind of mindset, believing that you can do it is so powerful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't know if that's maybe a whole other topic entirely, but having like a support group or people that believe in what you're doing and are cheerleading you on throughout the whole thing also makes a huge difference. I mean, there are tons of people that, just kind of are self-made and they kind of go through without having that. But I think if you do have that kind of support network and people that are helping you get to where you want to be, I think that really does help a lot.
Yeah, I'm taking a Spanish class right now over the summer, and there's a phrase that we learned that it goes, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. And what that means is that, literally translates to, tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. And that's something I feel like me and you have talked about a little bit, Sam, recently. We've had conversations about this, just about the people you surround yourself with are so incredibly important. Mm-hmm. They really, like that Spanish phrase, that saying in Spanish says, I really believe it, that, obviously there's exceptions to everything, but if we were to generalize, which I'm going to do here, acknowledging that it is a generalization, but the people that you surround yourself with have a gigantic influence on what you're able to do, your mentality, and who you turn out to be. And surrounding yourself with good people is, I think, critical.
Yeah. And sometimes I kind of take that also as like a kind of, like, I almost take it the opposite way, which maybe for one, maybe that just kind of makes me sound like I'm on some kind of high horse or something. But like sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, sometimes I want to, if I know some people that maybe, kind of kind of down on themselves or anything like that. Maybe I could be that person that they're surrounding themselves with that can also help to bring them up. And I do like that perspective as well. But yeah, if most of the people you're hanging out with are a certain way, sometimes, you just kind of become that way as well, good or bad. But hopefully, as long as we're improving ourselves, then we're actually not just helping ourselves, but by being better, we're also uplifting the people around us.
Yeah, I think what you said. Yeah, it's not to be, surrounding yourself with good people doesn't mean to put yourself on a high horse and cut everyone out of your life that you disagree with or you don't think is a good influence. And I think, sometimes people tend to fall in the extremes where they're unwilling to associate with those types of people, and then other people get, and just kind of what we've been talking about, they get caught up in people that they shouldn't be associating with. But I think finding that balance, you don't have to cut them out of your life. You don't have to be rude to them. You don't have to be mean to them. And this is advice I probably need to follow better, to be honest. This is advice sometimes I need to follow better. So I'm not trying to, speaking of high horses, I'm not trying to be on a high horse right now, sit on a high horse. But, like, for example, if you are trying to avoid drugs, and then you are hanging out with people, or you're avoiding hanging out with people who do drugs, you can still be kind to those people. You can still be friendly with those people, even if you don't spend all your time with them. And then I think that's kind of the idea. What we're trying to express is, that, maybe you don't have to spend all your time with them, nor do you have to cut them all out. But, who you're spending a majority of your time with is going to influence you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I guess we kind of got not way off topic, but that conversation definitely took that wasn't what we started out talking about. So I guess to bring it back to what we were talking about that clip, to bring it back to their clip, I really liked how he talked about, hey, I'm not going to be able to play in the NBA. Tim Pool was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to play in the NBA. And that reminded me of a post that I posted on Instagram a little while ago. The post where I photoshopped my head onto a bunch of people running a marathon. And it's like it, and I really like that little post that I made on Instagram, because it's like, okay, I'm not gonna run a marathon. I got physical limitations that are not going to allow me to excel at running a marathon. So I'm not going to waste my time trying to run a marathon. Now, I'm not saying, don't do things that you don't think that are hard, or I don't know. I'm not trying to say don't do what people are telling you is impossible. But rather, if I'm trying to be the most successful in my life, I'm going to have to find, I like the phrase that Tim used. He says, find their apex. You got to, and that's kind of what we were talking about in episode, what was it, 5 or something, lessons learned from a video game.
Right.
Whereas like, okay, I figured out what I was good at. I figured out what my role was. I figured out how I could contribute and what I could do best. And then that's what I did.
Yeah. I think everyone has their own things and their own, skills and abilities that they have that they're, kind of naturally gifted at, or they just have a better inclination of. And yeah, again, it's hard because I don't want to say, like if you're this or this or that, then you can't be, whatever you're planning on being, because there's definitely if you persevere and do enough hard work for a lot of things, then you'll just be able to eventually get to that level. But I think you also have to kind of look at yourself, just I think you just have to be a little bit realistic with your goals, and know that most things are very possible and you can do most things. But also, like, I don't know, because it's almost like I don't want to say, like, it's very, I don't want to, like, discourage people, like, oh, don't chase your dreams. You can't do anything you want to do. But at the same time, I also, you can do pretty much most things you want to do. So it's hard. I think you just kind of, I think most people probably understand what we're saying, and like, it just know your, I don't want to call them, know yourself. Like, I don't want to say know your limitations, because I think that's what we're trying to, or at least what I kind of think like I'm trying to dispel. that kind of mindset that you do have limitations. And I mean, you do, but like maybe those limitations aren't as big as you think they are, or
Yeah.
they're not entirely realistic either.
Yeah, it's such a fine line because it's like you said, you don't want to be a negative Nancy out here, and be like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not going to succeed that. Because if everyone listened to that, a lot of great things that we have in this world and in our life would not be as they are. But at the same time, if it's like you're going to be able to find, if you can find what you're good at and you can find what you're naturally disposition, if you have a disposition to do it, or if you're willing to, I guess, bring in this full circle. I feel like we didn't even talk, this whole clip was about perseverance. And I feel like we hardly talked about perseverance, which is our bad. But yep. I guess just as a final statement in bringing it full circle, either you're going to have to be naturally dispositioned to do something, or you're going to have to put in that perseverance and know the stakes, know the limitations, and know where you're at. And then I guess just one final thing that I wanted to say to close this up is this whole clip reminded me, or I felt like there's a connection between this clip and episode 2, which is just do it, not a Nike ad, where we talked about just doing it. And I feel like the message of that episode in combination with this clip that we just played is so powerful, is that you have to just start, you have to just do it, put yourself out there, put your idea out there and start doing something. And then you have to take this advice that Tim Pool's giving, or this anecdote, or this information that he's learned, and put it to use as well. You have to combine the two, just do it and persevere, because you're going to do something, you're going to start, and chances are you're not going to be the best at it, or you're not going to be at peak performance. You're not going to find your apex, to use Tim's words, the very first time you do it. But you have to start you have to start somewhere. And then at the same time, you have to persevere and be on that grind and put in the work to continue to progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you are someone that can find the thing that they're good at and you persevere at that, then that's the goal.
That's a great recipe for success.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on to the next clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, but I hate the job.
I hear you, but you know how many people have hit me up? You probably get something similar, like, how do I do what you do? When I was working for Vice and I was traveling around the world, 10, 20 emails every week from young people saying, I really want to do what you do. And you know what they would say to me when I would tell them how to do it? They would say, I will never do that. I would tell them, here's what you do. Do you have any money saved up? No? Okay. Where do you work? You don't work. Get a job, Starbucks, McDonald's, whatever you can get. Maybe you can do better than that. Save your money. Once you've saved enough, find a store you want, fly there, cover it. You know what they would say? No. There's one person who said to me, I want to travel around the world and do what you do. How do I do it? I say, do you have money saved up? Yes. Excellent. There's a story right now going on in Turkey. All right? You got to be secure. You got to be safe, but Istanbul's fairly okay. Fly there right now, film it, and I'll see if I can make any connections on what you find. And you know what they said? Well, the money I saved is for my apartment in Brooklyn. And I'm like, right, what's more important to you, having your nice Williamsburg apartment or being a journalist traveling around the world? Well, I like my apartment. I'm like, okay, listen, when I worked for Vice, I was sleeping on a couch. Every dime they paid me, I put in the bank, I didn't touch it. I got a job working for an ABC News joint venture company after that. They paid me a bunch of money. I put 70% in the bank. I didn't touch it. When I left, I went to a bunch of these New York digital companies. I'll spare them their names for any embarrassment. Many of them who have become rather worthless. They still exist, and they're big. And I decided, after seeing what they had to offer, the bias, the deception, the clickbait-driven nature of it, I'm going to do it myself. And because I saved my money every step of the way, I was able to do so. So then I had an apartment. Then I could pay for my plane ticket, to Sweden, to France, to Germany, to do these stories, and started building up a base. Within about 7 or 8 months, I had gone from red to black. So now all of a sudden, I was no longer losing money. I was making money. And I'm like, there it is. A couple of years on, ridiculously successful. For myself, I guess I could, it's relative. Look, the path for me isn't the path for everybody, but sacrifice,
Well, you're basically saying exactly what they're saying in the TED Talk, perseverance. And you embrace the grind.
But it's also, what do you really prioritize?
Yeah.
For me,
what are you trying to do?
I don't care about having an apartment. I want to see what was going on the ground in Istanbul. So you know what?
It's also like who is the type of person that would chase down the stories? The type of person that's really going to chase down the stories is a person that's driven to chase down stories. What you're getting is questions from idiots. You're getting questions from people that are like, how do I do it?
Exactly.
And then when you offer the answer, well, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But those are the people that are never going to make it.
Well, I guess to just provide a little bit of extra context to that clip, it would probably make a little more sense if you knew more about Tim Pool. Tim Pool is a reporter. He's a news commentator. He has a long history of working, like he said, you know, he worked for Vice, he worked for some other news companies, and then recently has found a lot of success on YouTube, which is what he was talking about when he quit and started his own thing. He's found a lot of success on YouTube, providing commentary on certain political events and activities. And so the reason I love this clip so much is not because I'm inspired to be a reporter and go travel to foreign countries and report on what's going on there, but rather just the lessons to be learned from this clip.
Yeah, I super related to, you know, what he was saying. Like, I feel like we kind of talked about this before, but especially in my situation right now, like one of the goals that I've always kind of had is, I really want to eventually be able to, you know, buy a new car, and I've always wanted to get a Tesla. And it's like, well, okay, how are you going to do that? And it's like, well, I need to, you know, work as much as I can, try to better myself to increase my income even more, and then save most of what I have so that I can eventually, you know, one day be able to achieve that goal. And I think whenever I kind of tell people what I'm doing, they kind of think it's crazy. It's like, well, you don't go out, you don't spend your money on like anything. Like, what are you doing? And I think it's kind of funny at the end there when Joe Rogan is like, oh, well, here's how you do it. And then most people are like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Like, I just want to achieve my goals or my dreams, but they don't follow through on their plan, or they don't have a plan. And they just kind of think it'll happen. But, you know, you have to figure out the way that you're going to do it and do anything you can to achieve whatever goals that you have.
100%. It made this whole clip made me think about my life and ask myself the question, am I willing to do what's necessary? You know, I may not have someone like Tim Pool in my email telling me step by step what I need to do, but rather with the advice that I've heard, what I think is best personally, you know, am I actually willing to do that? You know, for example, the program that I want to apply to, the finance program that I want to apply to, or as of now, currently, my plan is to apply to that program. You know, the GPA is the average GPA is pretty high, and the extra work that you have to put in is a decent amount compared to other majors. And I have to ask myself, am I really willing to do that? You know, and I think I've kind of answered that question. I think I'm willing to do that. I'm putting in the time to hopefully accomplish that. But then I have other aspects of my life. You know, I want to get in better shape. Am I really willing to do that? Am I really willing to push myself that hard? Or even with this podcast, I don't want this to become like a, we talk about the podcast and how to improve the podcast on the podcast type of thing. But, you know, am I willing to do what's necessary to make something successful, to make a show that's successful? Am I willing to, you know, do things that just, you know, I've seen, luckily I have the advantage of seeing other people who have done similar things. And am I willing to emulate what they're doing? Am I really to put in that sacrifice, you know? And then also what they talked about at the end, what is my priority? Is my priority to make the very best show that I can make? Or is my priority to do something a little more superficial? And I have to analyze that and then realign my priorities and understand, you know, what's required of me, and then really ask myself, am I willing to do this? And then if I am, I guess I have to just go for it, get on that grind.
Yeah. I think it's, like I'm a pretty firm believer that if there is something that you really want to do, and, you know, there's always, I feel like there's always a way to achieve that, or there's always a way to make the time to be able to do that. I think the question is, you know, am I do I want it enough to where I'm going to sacrifice everything that I can, or do all that I can to actually make that possible? And I think that really, differentiates the people that, actually do go and achieve the things that they seek out to do, and the people that just kind of have that as a fantasy or just some kind of dream that they have, but then don't actually want it enough to go out and do it.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing is it's important to be honest with yourself. Like, for example, right now with the podcast, I'm busy with school, right now from 7 a.m. till 2:30, 3 o'clock normally on most days. So, I have 3 o'clock until when I go to bed, mostly free, not always, but more or less. And I have to ask myself, what am I going to do at that time? And I think it's okay to say, I don't think we're advocating here for the 24/7 nonstop grind in whatever you're trying to achieve. Because, right now I've determined, I spend a little bit of time with my family. And I've determined that that's what's, I don't think they talked about this in the episode, and kind of in this conversation, but I don't know if we played it in one of the 2 clips that we played. But they talked about, what is your priority? What's at the top of your list? What are you prioritizing? And I think if you decide to not prioritize your work or to prioritize your passion, I think that's okay, but you just have to understand. You have to just be real with yourself. If I'm deciding I want to spend time with my family before I go up to school and I'm not going to be able to see them for a month or 2 or 3 months or whatever, I have to be real with myself and understand that I'm sacrificing time that I could be working on this podcast or working on something else. And I think that's okay, but I think you just have to be real with yourself, what you're willing to prioritize. And I guess that's kind of part of what the problem of these people who are emailing Tim was. They weren't willing. Their priorities, they wanted one thing, but their priorities were different. That one guy, one example, he didn't want to leave his apartment in Brooklyn. He didn't want to give up his nice apartment or the spot that he had. And, that's fine. If that's what's important to you, your apartment, that's what's important to you, go ahead, stay in that apartment, but don't expect to reach the level of success you're dreaming of, or, be able to follow your passion in the same way that this guy was asking Tim, someone he looked up to, how to do what he did. Don't expect to be able to reach that same level, especially quickly, if you're not willing to do what's required of you. And once again, just to reiterate, I'm not telling people or advocating that you have to just 24/7 grind, but you just got to be real with yourself and realize what your priorities are.
Yeah, I think it's easy throughout all of these. And, for a lot of like uber successful people, it's all just about, priorities and just what you, what was the word I was going to use? I don't know, but basically, like, if it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like, okay, if your goal going into something is to be, to have the very best or be the very best in whatever field or whatever you're planning on doing, then yes, you do have to, kind of dedicate yourself entirely to that and, kind of cut everything else out almost to get to that level of success. But I think if you just go in, like you were saying, you have to be kind of real. Like, okay, if I want to get to whatever levels of success I want, I'm going to have to put in this much time into that. And it's okay to not, want to become the biggest or the best or whatever. Like, if you...
That goes back to episode 1 with Andrew Harker was talking about, find your version of success.
Exactly. Yeah, not everyone is meant to be the biggest person for everything, and nor do they want to sometimes. Like,
or would it make them the most happy?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are lots of other things that it's all just trading your time. It's like your most valuable resource. So, whatever you put time into, you're going to be good at.
Mm-hmm. You got to be a savage with your time. You got to be extremely conservative with your time. Mm-hmm. I think you just said it's the most valuable resource you have. I believe that. Yeah. Dang. Okay. Anything you want to say before we wrap up? I think we could do a Joe Rogan length podcast, just talking about this 20-minute, this was from, I extracted about 20 minutes I watched, there was 20 minutes of, them talking about this. And then there was 10 minutes of clips that I cut out. And then we played 3 minutes of clips. So we could have a whole Joe Rogan length discussion on this, but I guess this is probably where we'll leave it for today. Maybe we'll pick it up another time, talk about the rest of the clips that we have. But is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
Just say that if there's something you want and you want it above everything, then do what you can or do what you have to achieve that, but also be okay with, just find your own level of success and, chase your dreams. You can do it.
Amen. Yeah, we're going all the way full circle, man. We're coming back to episode 1. Find your level of success. Find your true. What will make you the most happy? The level of success that will make you the most happy, and then let that be your priority, and then let that be what you spend your time on. Well, I guess that's all I got to say. So thank you once again for joining me, Sam. Thank you everyone for listening lately. We've been getting a lot of great feedback, and I think the episodes are being well received, but at the very same time, if you got some criticism, if you got some feedback, please give it to us. We're desperate to hear what you guys think. And we're always looking to improve. So let us know what you think. I'm not going to get offended. I'd be actually grateful if you could roast me a little bit. So just throw that out there. Sam, you want to shout out our socials?
Yeah, so if you do want to leave those raving or horrible reviews or whatever you want to leave, follow us. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter at Talk Progression. And then just also be sure to follow or I guess, I think every platform kind of has a different name for it, but I think in general for most it's subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're on, and also just be sure to leave a review. That also really helps us a lot, and also just share with everyone to
exactly.
get it out there.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This is all we got for episode 8. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys next week.